So first and foremost, Chiamo, that means greetings. I'm Odwirafo Kwesi Rait Akan Odwirafo of Akwamumana Maruka, Etifimudi Akwamu Nation in North America, within Ojiraman, the purified nation, Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people, African Black people in the Western Hemisphere. So we want to go through a short examination of the nature of the BAU, that's plural for Ba, spirits. There's a specific text from the queen of the Henut Nejemet, the queen Nejemet. We want to show this text, and we're talking about the nature of the Ba'et, which is the term for spirit, divine living energy in ancient Kanit and Kemet, our ancestral language and culture of Nubia and Egypt. You find the same terms we've shown in our books, Kra and Bra, which is Ka, Ra, and Ba, Ra, which is Ka and Ba, soul and spirit. In the Akan language, for example, Ka and Ba in ancient Kemet, the feminine forms are Ka'et and Ba'et. But we want to show the nature of the Ba and the Ba'et, the spirit, the divine living energy that comes directly from the creator and creatress, Ra and Ra'et, as a basis for what a lot of people talk about manifestation and this foolish information coming from white pseudo New Age spirituality. We want to talk about quote unquote manifestation rooted in our invocation of the Ba, quote unquote spirit or Ba'et spirit. And to do that, we show that Ra as well as Ra'et, the creator and creatress, are delineated as having 7 BAU or Baitu, 7 spirits. So now, in this image, you see the Queen Mother right here, Henut Nejemet. This is actually her mummy. And then, of course, someone did a graphic representation of her, what she would actually look like and so forth. But this is her actual mummy here from her papyrus. This is a drawing of her from her own funerary papyrus and so forth. And also from that funerary papyrus, as we will see, you have these 7 Ba spirits, the Ba'et, the 7 spirits of Ra, but also of Ra'et. Now, first I want to touch on one of our books that you see in this flyer. We have what we have when we started yesterday is a 7-week group healing ritual series. So we go through each one of these 7 Ba spirits, Ba'et spirits, the nature and function of them cosmologically, how that divine living energy, which is animating you, can be utilized, harnessed for healing purposes, emotional balance, mental balance, and expanded in different ways in your life and so forth. So we have a 7-part group ritual series. We started yesterday. We have 6 more weeks. The archive of the lecture and the meditation, the Susu, the meditation, is made available for registrants, so you can still access that. If you missed it yesterday, you can access it. But we have 6 more weeks to go, 1 week per Ba, 1 week per spirit, until we go through the entire group, of 7 spirits and so forth. But first, books to date in your Kunton book, and we want to pull that up. Just want to show you a couple of images from that so you can have an insight into the cosmology. Okay, so we wrote this book initially to show that in the Akan culture, and we practice Akan ancestral religion because our Akan ancestresses and ancestors were forced from the regions of Ghana and Ivory Coast into North America during enslavement. We maintained our Akan ancestral religion, which is called Hoodoo in North America, but just like other various groups from Western, Central, and South Africa, South Africa, we were forced into the Western Hemisphere, but we maintained our ancestral religious practices. But we show in our books that whether it's Akan or Yoruba or Igbo or Basa, the various groups, the languages ritual practices, the deities, the goddesses and gods, you can find them by the same names, with the same language and multifaceted definitions in ancient Khanid and Kemet, as you find in West and Central and South Afuraitkai, because we're the same people, we simply migrated. So, in ancient Khanid and Kemet, the creator of the universe is called Ra. That's the most ancient name, and the creatress is Rait. So you have the creator and creatress. It's not just a male creator, not just a female creatress. There are two halves of the divine whole, the creator and creatress, the great spirit, the divine living energy permeating all things. We were showing that in the Akan language, that's Inyokumpon, which is Ra, and Inyokunton, which is Ra'et. But in the context of that, we showed the cosmology. We also showed that Amen and Amenet, where they stole the term Amen at the end of prayers in Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, and so forth. This is the great God Amen, and this is the great goddess Amenet, and together they form the supreme being, the great divine supreme being, and so forth, the great mother and father supreme being. And just like you, as a microcosm, as a black male, black female, a microcosm of the macrocosm, your physical body and you as an entity is like Amen and Amenet, and the divine living energy, the solar energy surging through you, the life force energy serving through you is your Ra force if you're a male, or Ra'et force if you're a female. So Amen and Amenet are the supreme being, and the divine living energy that moves through them, that they direct to create the universe, is Ra and Ra'et. Just like your procreative power, the solar energy you take in through the breath, that divine living energy surging through all of your cells and so forth, that is your life force energy, that is your Ra force, your Ra'et force, and you direct it to create not only children, but also creative entities. So Amen and Amenet are the great mother and father supreme being. Ra and Ra'et are the creator and creatress, the grandchildren of the supreme being, the life force energy, the spirit animating the great divine body of the supreme being. In Akan, Yonkampon is Nankapon, the great circular serpent. The hieroglyphic symbol, the Medut and Toro symbol, is a circle with the dot in the middle, surmounted by a serpent, which is the solar disk. And that comes directly from the rainbow around the sun, the rainbow around the moon. That's the great rainbow, quote unquote, serpent. That's where the hieroglyph comes to spell their names and so forth. So that's a graphic representation of what happens in nature. You have dual rainbows. And then we find in the Yoruba tradition, Odumare and Oshumare, the creator and creatress, represented by a circular serpent, rainbow serpent, and so forth. In the Ewe tradition in Togo and Benin and Vodun, the great circular serpent swallowing its tail is the creator and creatress, Da and Aida Huedo. And in Akan, of course, that's in Yonkumpon, and in Yonkunton, the great circular serpent, the rainbow serpent, and so forth. That is the cosmology. When white light is refracted or bent by rain or mist, it breaks up into a number of different colors. And those are the sacred colors that give birth to all different things and so forth. So that divine living energy moving through space, breaking up into a band of colors, generating all of the colors and forms and geometric patterns and so forth in creation. That is Ra and Ra'et, the divine living energy moving through the black substance of space and breaking up into these different forms. So we showed that first, and we showed that the spirit of the human being, only Afuraitkaitnit people, specifically Black people in particular, exclusively, our spirit, the divine living energy within us, is a child of Ra and Ra'et, and that's a key point. So we just showed you who Ra and Ra'et are. We wrote another article, and we want to show you the nature. You strengthen yourself, and then you use that power to execute your function in the world. You fuel yourself by nutrients and food and so forth, and then you empower yourself and use that energy to execute your function in the world. We do the same thing ritually by feeding and empowering the spirit. So we wrote an article about the female divinity Nejemet, and in that article we showed the image of the Ba and the Ba'et. That's the way, hold on one second. Let me pull this up so you can see it. This is the way that the spirit is depicted in Kemet, so you can get a better understanding of the nature and function of the spirit. So the spirit is shown as a human-headed bird, the head of the human being and the body of a bird. Sometimes a bird with a bowl of burning incense with a flame arising, sometimes a bird with a solar disk on its head, sometimes shown in this fashion. Here's the bird with the solar disk on its head and so forth. Here's the bird with the bowl of burning incense with a flame arising and so forth. So what you're seeing is it's a winged, which is animate, flame, or fire. So what is that animated or winged fire within you? When you breathe in air, there's solar energy that you breathe in as well. It fires your body up. You become heated and so forth. You can generate that heat and expand it when you're working out or engaged in martial arts and so forth, expanding that quote unquote chi energy. And chi is actually a title of Ra in Kemet. So it doesn't come from Asia. The term chi is literally a title that means exalted, a title of Ra himself, and cheat is a title of Ra'et herself. So chi, also pronounced ki, comes directly from Kemet. So you have an animate or winged fire. There's a quote unquote bird, a winged or animate fire surging through your physical and spirit body. That's why they showed the Ba spirit as a bird with a bowl of burning incense or the solar disk. Now, when you look at a bird and you see the chest and the wings of folded wings of the bird and so forth, if you look at your heart and your lungs, that is like the breast and the folded wings of the bird inside of you. When your lungs expand and contract, they begin to fan the flames. That's the bird's wings flapping and so forth. Of course, your head is the head of the Ba spirit. So you have a little bird inside of your body. And when you breathe in and out and your heart is beating and so forth, the wings are expanding and contracting. It's generating fire, expanding that fire within you. And once that fire is expanded, you can utilize it in your hands, feet, brain, and so forth to execute tasks in the world. So this is why they show that kind of symbolism. So the term Ba means spirit, Ba'et for women and so forth, Black people exclusively. When you see the brother here who's engaged in falconry, he can send the falcon out, it goes and executes a task, and then comes back. When we send our life force energy out, our Ba bird out to go execute a task, to communicate with an ancestral spirit, to communicate with a divinity and so forth, to interact with another individual. When we project our inner energy outwards, it's like sending the bird out, and then the bird comes back to us. So what's important about the nature of the spirit is not just energy. For us, it's actually an Ntoro, a deity. That's the masculine term, Ntorot, the feminine term. There's a spiritual force that is sent by Ra and Ra'et and Yonkumpon and Yonkunton, the creator and creatress, to take up residence within our physical and spirit bodies. Just like if you're driving a car and then someone is, an elder or elders tells another elder or elders, hey, come sit in the car with this individual and guide them throughout the course of their journey. So you have an individual sitting in the same vessel as you, and they're giving you direction. In your physical and spirit body, Ra and Ra direct one of their children, one of these sacred, quote unquote, solar birds, but one of these spiritual forces to take up residence within you. And the more you engage the ritual process, you can take control and actually utilize and direct that force within you. On the lowest level, you see martial artists, they can expand a little bit of their life force energy to break a cinder block or a wooden board and so forth, whereas somebody else, if they tried to punch a wooden board or a cinder block, they would break their hand. But because they've learned to increase their quote unquote chi energy or ki energy and so forth, they've learned to expand it just a little bit. and they can do a little bit more with it. We go beyond that and we communicate with this force. Now, the Asians and Europeans and pseudo-Native Americans and non-Black individuals, they don't have this spiritual force. They have lower level electromagnetic energy, but they don't have a spiritual force that is guiding them and directed and installed within their spirit body. That's exclusively an Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit feature in creation. That's part of our culture. That's part of our spiritual anatomy. We are totally different than non-Black individuals wherever we exist in the world. So the ancestresses and ancestors guide these spirits to dwell with us. We communicate with them. We expand that energy and so forth. Now, so that's the basis of, that's the nature of the spirit. You have the soul, the divine consciousness, the ka, which is just like your brain, the consciousness. You have a consciousness, divine, understanding of creation, divine intelligence. But then you have life force energy that surges through your physical body and spirit body. The ka, or ka is the soul, the bayat is the spirit. So together, the spirit and the soul, the ba and the ka, fuses together to make a whole entity. Now, let me pull up. Now, there's a very important text that we talked about earlier, Nejemet. She shows that for us, we have a spirit and we have a soul, just like you have a heart and you have a brain. The creator of the universe, Ra, as well as Rait, they are designated 7 spirits, the 7 BAU or 7 Ba spirits and so forth. And we want to focus on that. But this is key to manifestation. Just like you can channel your energy, your chi energy to expand a little bit and break a board and so forth, you can go further ritually to attune to that spirit that dwells within you. You can communicate with that force and you can realign yourself so you can be grounded spiritually, grounded emotionally, grounded mentally. If you have physical illnesses or ailments, you can expand that energy within your body to help bring a healing effect in association with herb medicine and plant medicine, mineral life, plant life, mineral life, and so forth, sometimes animal life together to form, natural approaches to holistic medicine and so forth. But that life force energy helps to activate that medicine. There are a number of different things that are applications for working with your own spirit body. Now, it's taking a minute to pull up this book, but this is one of our other books, Ankh, The Origin of the Term Yoga, Karakasa, The Origin and Nature of the Chakra. In our book, we show that the term yoga in the Proto-Indo-European language family, which gives birth to Sanskrit and so forth, that term yonk, meaning to yoke or unite or join or unite, yonk is a corruption of the ancient term ankh, which the variation is yonk. They stole that directly from ancient Kemet. Thousands of years before India, we were already using the term ankh or yonk and fully incorporated in ritual and cosmology. The same thing with the term kara in ancient Kemet, meaning a circle, but also a shrine of divinities that was corrupted into kakra and later chakra in India. This predates India by thousands of years. We prove that conclusively in our book, Ankh, The Origin of the Term Yoga, Karakasa, Origin and Nature of the Chakra. And just so you can see that, when they're talking about the Proto-Indo-European language family, yug or yuj to link, join, or yoke, there's an infix, which is the N or the Nes, so yug becomes yuneg or yonk meaning to join or unite. The Sanskrit word yoga, literal meaning to yoke, from the root yuj or yug, to join or unite, 2nd century BCE. And that yonk comes from a variation of the term ankh, which is also pronounced eonk. And when you look at the way it's spelled with the domesticated goat, that's one ankh, as you can see right here. And you'll see that the ankh is around the neck of the domesticated goat in the form of a yoke. So the ankh, also spelled eonk, is a yonk or yoke. They stole the term Why would Europeans say that the word yonk, eunuch in Proto-Indo-European yonk, means to yoke, to join, unite? Why doesn't susu mean to join, unite? Or bila mean to join, unite? Why does it have to be the sounds e, onk, or e-yonk? Why does it mean that? They can't tell you that because they stole the term from our language. We know why e-yonk means to join and unite, because the onk itself, the e-yonk itself, is a yonk, is a yoke. And in fact, it is that life entity that fuses together the ba, the spirit, and the ka, the soul, within the spirit body of the individual. So when you see the deities placing the ankh at the nose of the individual, the spirit of the individual, they're fusing together the ba, the spirit, with the soul, the ka, the divine consciousness. They're fusing that back together to make a whole entity. Now, so we show that in the book, and that's the first half of the book, and we prove that cosmologically and linguistically and show it across the board and so forth. Images from when we traveled to ancient Kemet and so forth to prove that conclusively. Then we also showed that the term kakra or chakra, which originally just meant a circle in Sanskrit and later associated with spiritual centers, that comes from kara kara in ancient Kemet, anything round, staff, stick, roll, or cylinder. But kara kara, meaning circle, the root of it is kara, which means shrine, sanctuary, chapel, gods of a shrine, a sacred circular entity within which spiritual forces dwell. So when you go to that shrine, leave an offering, you can communicate with that force. No different than if you invite your great-grandmother, great-grandfather to your home and you give them a chair to sit in. And once they sit there and you give them some food and something to drink, some spring water, whatever, and then you communicate with this ancient individual and they give you guidance. When we set up a shrine, we give offerings and so forth. We invoke the spirits of the deities. The spirit comes down and takes up residence temporarily. Then we can communicate back and forth. Spirit possession takes place sometimes. We get the information we need to align ourselves with divine order. And then that ritual process is complete. So, kara kara means shrine. And then we show all of that. But here's the piece that we want to focus on. We're talking about here the 7 kasu. And let me just pull that back right quick. There's a term called kasu. It's pronounced kasu, the 7 magical knots that protected a man. Kas means backbone, vertebrae, spine, but also knot, tie, ligature. And there are 7 of them, the 7 kasu, the 7 magical knots that protected a man. So the term kasu, that means spine, vertebrae, backbone, also means knots or ties or ligatures. And there are 7 of them, 7 magical knots that protected a man spiritually. And then there are 7 kasu, the 7 kasu deities, the 7 deities who assisted at the judgment and condemnation of the wicked. And then when you look at the physical body, of course, the 7 bunches of nerves, the nerve ganglia, and the 7 positions. These are the 7 knots, nerve endings. These are the 7 knots. There's a ritual invocation to the 7 knots, or kasu in ancient Kemet. We have the text here. There's 7 deities that govern these 7 knots. And we invoke those 7 deities by name and align with them. Most people talking about chakras, they don't know that there are deities associated with the kara kara centers. We know what the kara kara centers are. There's 7 knots or nerve endings that carry a different configuration of energy in each one, just like there's different glands and organs associated with these different parts of the body. Spiritually, there are 7 knots. They carry different energy complexes. There are 7 deities, the kasu deities, that govern each one of these knots. So just like you need to strengthen your organs, your thymus gland, pineal, with the proper nutrients and so forth, your adrenal glands and so forth, in the same way, the same glands and organs that are associated with these 7 centers that need to be in harmony so you can function physically, harmoniously, without getting sick. Spiritually, you have 7 radiant centers in those same areas of the spirit body that you have in the physical body they need to be in balance as well. The way you balance them is not only to focus on the 7 deities that govern those knots, but within those 7 little shrine areas, the little kara, the 7 spirits of Ra and Rait reside, the 7 Ba spirits. So you can always associate, and let me just show you this right here. You see right here, it says, "O you 7 knots, or Kasu, the arms of balance, on that night of setting in the sacred iron order, who cut off heads, who sever necks, who take away hearts, who make slaughter in the island of fire," talking about destroying the enemy or repelling the enemy, or discord in energy or entities. "I know you, I know your names. May you know me just as I know your names. If I reach you, may you reach me. If you live through me, may I live through you. May you make me to flourish with what is in your hands, the staff or spine which is in your grasp. May you destine me to life annually. May you grant to me many years of life over and above my years of life, many days over and above my days of life, many nights over and above my nights of life, until I depart. May I rise to be a likeness of myself. May my breath be at my nose. May my eyes see in the company with those who are in the horizon on that day of dooming the robber." So it's a ritual invocation to the 7 deities that govern these kara centers, or so-called chakra or kakra centers. But we have 7 deities that we invoke to stimulate these shrines within our bodies. No different than if you take certain herbs to purify and cleanse your different glands in these different regions, and now you're more healthy and holistic and you can function optimally. Where we strengthen the shrines of these deities within our spirit body by invoking them through Susu meditation, ritual song, ritual dance, ritual chant, ritual prayer, different forms, but especially Susu meditation. We stimulate them. And in that process, when you purify that, just like purifying a wind chime, if a wind chime is full of dirt and leaves and so forth, when the wind moves through, you won't hear anything. If you clean the wind chime out, purify it, when the wind moves through, it will resound and reverberate, and hundreds of yards away, people will be able to hear those sound vibrations which are harmonious, will hit their eardrums, cause their eardrums to oscillate, and it will generate a harmonious healing effect on the body hundreds of yards away. If you clean out the vessel, when we clean our vessels out physiologically, we're healthy, but when we do it spiritually, then the forces in nature that govern us, their energy moving through our spirit body and generating these holistic sound vibrations that can heal us. When we clean ourselves out spiritually, we do the same thing like cleaning out a wind chime. That's what ritual is for. So these are the 7 shrines, just like 7 sets of glands and so forth. We need to cleanse those out. Once we clean them out, then the spirit of Ra and Rait can move through us freely, unhindered and so forth, and generate a vibrant, powerful, energetic force that can bring balance and healing and restoring balance to hormones and everything else. Now, so let's look at this text quickly. In fact, before we look at that, let me pull something else up. Pull this up. This is one of the documents that we utilize in the course. In fact, it was a course, but then we're doing a ritual series. So we do a presentation at first on each one of the 7 spirits, each one of the 7 Ba spirits, 1 spirit per week. Then after the presentation, then we do a ritual susu, the ancient term for meditation, a ritual, group healing ritual. We did that yesterday. The presentation was first at 11 a.m. and then around 11:45 and so forth, we went into the group ritual process, did a ritual susu, so-called meditation, and then we had a discussion afterwards. We're going to do the same thing this coming Sunday as we go through each one of the 7 Ba spirits and the nature and function of each one. Now, even if you look at the cosmology of Kemet, you'll see that the term Beka means to illumine, to be bright, to shine, and so forth. Bright radiant splendor. But it also means a pregnant woman. That's because Beka is a union of Ba and Ka. When the spirit and soul fuse together, then a birth can happen. So even on a mundane level, Ba and Ka together, Baka or Beka means a pregnant woman, meaning a union is taking place and a birth is taking place and so forth. When the spirit, the Ba, unites with the soul, the Ka, the divine consciousness, then you have a new birth. Now let me pull out of that right quick, and we're going to pull up this document. Hold on. Okay. I want to show you just an image from one of our books, the Okra Complex. So as I said, I've published 31 books to date. The ebook versions you can download for free. But what we've also done, as this book is pulling up, we recently released our anthology, Ojirasim, True Historical Anthology. It's a 600-page book, 8.5 by 11 full color. And we take 12 of the books that are published that deal with cosmology and true historical information, and we put all 12 books together in one 600-page volume. The book Ankh, The Origin of the Term Yoga, Karakasa, Origin and Nature of the Chakra, is one of the books in that volume. This book we're showing right now, the Okra Complex, is one of the books in the volume. Kuku Tuntum, The Ancestral Jurisdiction, where we show that Jesus never existed, Muhammad never existed, Allah never existed, Buddha, Brahman, all these fictional cartoon characters who never existed of any form or of any race. We prove that they didn't exist and how they were manufactured by the whites and their offspring, where they got these characters from and so forth. All of that is in this book. One of the books in this anthology is this one, the Okra Complex, and we're showing here that the term Ka in Kemet, which means soul, divine consciousness, is the term Kra in Akan. But here we just want you to see that this symbol with the two arms up, that's a symbol for the soul, the Ka, male, Ka et female. That is your divine consciousness. For us, the soul is not the breath. That's silly. That's misinformation. The Ka is a divinity that dwells in the head region. So just like you have a physical body and you have a smaller body within your physical body in the head region, which is the brain that has the blueprint of everything that takes place in the body. It's the control center in your spirit body. Like if someone transitions and their spirit separates from the body and you see this ancestral spirit, if you're clairvoyant, they're a spirit. A male ancestor or female ancestress, they're a spirit. And the head region of that spirit is a radiant force. That is the spirit's brain, so to speak. That is the Ka. The Ka, the soul, the divine consciousness, is a deity for Black people exclusively. The whites and their offspring don't have that. So just like you have a physical brain and it has the blueprint, spiritual, that's simply the physical shrine of the spiritual brain, which is the Ka, your divine consciousness, your divine intelligence. It is a male divinity for males. It's a female divinity for females. And once again, it's a force that dwells with you, that guides you throughout the course of your life, like a great elder or great elderess sitting in the car with you and so forth. That force was directed by the Supreme Being to dwell with you throughout the course of your life and give you that consciousness of divine order. Just like the Ba dwells with you in the physical body from the neck down, basically, to enliven and empower you. And you can direct that little falcon, that little bird within you to expand its energy. You have a spiritual force that gives you power. You have a spiritual force that gives you consciousness. Just like your heart is an entity within your physical body that pumps out the blood, that carries the oxygen, that fires you up and so forth, and oxygenates every cell in your body. You have that structure that does that for you. And your brain is your consciousness. Spiritually, the Ba is seated in the heart. It's a spiritual force that expands solar energy throughout your entire being. And spiritually, in the head region, there's a spiritual force that gives you your link to divine consciousness, the consciousness of the Supreme Being. So you have the Ba and the Ka. And this whole book goes into detail about what is the nature of the soul. What is the nature of this force in your head that pulls you towards thoughts, intentions, and actions that are in harmony with divine order and disinclines you from thoughts, intentions, and actions that are out of harmony with divine order? How do you learn to attune to that force where it's no longer just a pull that you feel, like an intuition or your first mind, or something told me to do this, or something told me to stay away from this, beyond just a small pull? When you engage the ritual process consistently, you can communicate with that divinity just like you communicate with another ancestral spirit or a living person, because it's a force ready to communicate with you, and it's been communicating with you since you were a child. But that communication becomes more clear and directive the more in tune you are with that force in your head region. And every Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit culture has a name for that. In Akan, it's the Kra, the Krawa. In Yoruba, it's the Ori-Nu, the spiritual head, the divinity, the Orisha in the head. In Igbo, it's the Chi, the Arusi, the deity that governs the head. And Vodun is the Selido, the Vodu, the deity that governs the head. Every group understands there's a male force for males, a female divinity, goddess for females that dwells in the head region, that was assigned to dwell with us by the Supreme Being to guide us throughout the course of our lives so we can live in harmony with divine order. So that's the Ka, the soul, the divine consciousness in the head. And then the Ba is the divine living energy permeating all of your being. Ba and Ka together is the spirit and the soul. And that's why when you look at the general term, Baka, it means illumination and shining and so forth, light, radiance, splendor. That's because when the soul, the two arms here, receive that radiant solar energy, and there's a fusion of the Ba and the Ka, the life force energy awakens the energy and consciousness of the Ka and so forth, and the fusion takes place in your whole being. And this, of course, is why Baka means, on a mundane level, a pregnant woman, meaning a fusion is taking place. The sperm and ovum unite and a fusion and the entity is born. When the Ba and Ka come together, the spirit and soul come together, now you're an authentic human being. And of course, that only happens for Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people, African Black people. Now, let's look at this cosmology right quick. In the papyrus of Nejemet, give me 1 second, I want to pull up this document. All right. Now, you have a Ba, you have a spirit, you have a soul, Ka. But in ancient Kemet, they talk about Ra having 7 spirits. Hold on 1 second. Okay, it's just taking a minute to pop up. All right. And this is the text that we go into some more detail about in the, the 7-week course. Well, it's not even a course, it's a group healing ritual and so forth. But just so you can see what we're looking at. The ritual invocation to these 7 spirits. I just want you to see that text. And this is on archive.org, so you can download this text for free. The papyrus of Nejemet. Archive.org takes a minute to upload sometimes. But while it's doing that, let me show you the image. This is the same image from the flyer that you saw. these 7 Ba spirits right here, in order, are the 7 radiant forces that take up residence in these 7 kara or chakra centers. So each, just like you have these 7 sets of glands that carry, tissues and so forth, but they also receive the blood and the life force energy within the blood and the oxygen that circulate through them. But each set of glands has its own function: your thymus, pituitary, pineal, adrenal glands, and so forth. Each set has its own function, but it has to be empowered or illuminated or, energized or vitalized by the blood moving through it and the oxygen within the blood and the life force energy within the blood. So each one of those 7 centers in your physical body, you have a corollary in your spirit body. There are 7 centers governed by 7 deities. They have their own energy complexes. And then you have a Ba spirit that illuminates each one. Just like the blood gets into your glands and empowers or illuminates or vitalizes each one, unlocks the energy. If you have incense, like rock incense, on a table, it's just sitting there. You can smell it a little bit, but it's just sitting there. When you put fire to it, then it fills up the entire space with smoke, and even people outside the room can be affected by it. When you put fire energy to the systems, the different Ka centers and so forth, it releases the energy of each one. When we invoke the 7 Ba of Ra and Rait, the creator and creatress, we release that energy. And once it's released, just like the smoke fills up the entire room, then we can redirect that towards healing effects. Now, let me go back to the okay, it's still taking a minute to load up, so I'm just gonna reboot it. All right. So let me go back to that papyrus. Okay, so here it is. So each one, we go into detail about each one. The first Ba is called they mistranslated as soul, but it's actually spirit. The pure of seed. The second one is the sound of flesh. The next one is the glorious of sound, spirit of Heka, and so forth. But I just want you to see the actual images. And then we'll show you them in the Meduten Toro dictionary, the hieroglyphic dictionary. Okay, still taking time to upload. Hold on. Okay, what's gonna end up happening, you're just gonna see those 7 in the actual text. And in fact, before we do that, I can go ahead and give you this. In fact, I'll do it this way because it's taking a minute to load. All right. So they have the transliteration, but then they also have the translation. This is it right here. So it's a good thing that Nejemet, one of our great Henut queens and so forth, in her text, an adoration of Ra, as he rises in the horizon, eastern horizon and so forth, she lays out the names of the 7 spirits that comprise the spirit body of Ra, as well as Rait. And they are here. So this is Wab, Peret, Ucha, Afu, Aku, Ucha, Heka, Aru, Ko or Koi, and Sank. These are the 7 spirits. So let's give you the actual details. Okay, I don't think you were seeing that. All right, let me go back. I don't think you saw that last page. I think the screen was blank, so let me put it back up, and then I'll show you the actual translations. Okay. Here on the right. All right, so you should be able to see that now. Okay, these on the right, these are the 7 in order. And when you look at them, and we show the cosmology to prove that, you look at the way they're structured in order, they carry the energy of each one of the 7 kara centers properly in order. So the Ba spirit takes up residence in the first shrine, first ka, illuminates that shrine, the second Ba spirit, the second shrine, the third, and so forth. So all of the 7 centers in the body have a Ba spirit that takes up residence and ignites it, illuminates it, and so forth. And when we invoke them, we do the same thing. Just like if you do some meditation or quote unquote fire breathing and fire your entire, body up and you become overheated and so forth. When you do something targeted ritual heka or ritual incantation and so forth, or engage in ritual susu meditation, you stimulate these different centers within your body. And that allows you to align yourself with order. And once you do that, then you put yourself in position to be able to receive what's in harmony with divine order from the creator and creatress, from Ra and Ra'et, and Yonkampon and Yonkanton. That's the nature of manifestation. The silly notion of manifestation where you do certain things so you can get what you want and all this other foolishness, that's Eurocentric nonsense. That's Eurocentric lust. Our culture is about living in harmony with divine order. And when we are out of harmony with divine order, we engage the ritual process to put ourselves back in harmony with divine order. And once you put yourself in position to be in harmony with divine order, then what you receive from the great mother and great father, supreme being, is what you receive because you put yourself in position to receive that, and that is manifestation. So we invoke these Ba spirits so we can expand that energy, realign ourselves with order, and position ourselves to receive everything we actually need to receive that's actually harmonious, not something that you're just lusting after. So, but those Ba spirits, I'll give you the actual definitions of them. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so we're going to switch over. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to remove that. I just want you to see them in the text. And in the sessions that we do weekly on Sundays, we show the entire text and we go through it point by point. But this is the breakdown of each one of the 7. The first one was Wab Peret, the one that is pure of seed. That's talking about the quote unquote crown, kara kara, and the radiant force above the head and so forth. It's like a seed, like when the sun sets in the west and goes into the quote unquote underworld and then moves through the quote unquote underworld. When you see that in the ancient text of Kemet, that's akin to a seed being planted in the ground, but that radiant force above the head, that's the peret, the seed and so forth. We're talking about purification of the seed or the seed of consciousness. Once you purify that, then the next stage is Ucha. Ucha Afu, that's the next Ba spirit. That means sound or healthy or strong, of Afu, of flesh. So you purify your consciousness first through invoking the first Ba spirit. Then you purify your quote unquote flesh or your Afu and make it sound, Ucha, of flesh. And now your physical vessel, just like that wind chime, has been cleaned out. And now you're a vessel that's qualified to receive the communication, whether it's through spirit possession or spirit communication. You receive that, and now you can radiate that communication. Then you have Aku, ucha, ritual incantations, sound vibrations, spoken, ritual speech, and so forth, ritual communication, and so forth. That is sound that deals with the throat, kara, so-called chakra, heka, connected to the heart, and so forth, manifesting the energy and projecting it outwards and making things happen in a harmonious way. Aru, which is the fifth kara, associated with the solar plexus and so forth. Aru means sacred form, a figure, image, and so forth. That's where you have solidified. If you see the mummified figure here, you've crystallized your spirit body. When we look at mummification in ancient Kemet, the whites in our spring don't understand why we engage in mummification. They're like, oh, well, maybe they're just preserving the image of the deceased, for sentimental purposes. What we were doing with that process, and even 5,000 years later, you still have well-preserved bodies and so forth. But what we were doing essentially through the mummification process is crystallizing the physical body. And once you form the body into a crystal, then that's the greatest ancestral shrine that you can have for an ancestor or ancestors. You can have pictures, you can have a sculpture, you can have a lock of hair, you can have the place where they used to sit or their handkerchief and things like that. But if you preserve the physical body that spirit used to dwell in, that's the most powerful ancestral shrine you can have. So we crystallize the body. Once the body became a crystal, it's the greatest magnet for that great ancestor or ancestors to return to the community periodically during, ritual song, ritual dance, sacred ancestral observances every 42 days and so forth, to engage in spirit possession, spirit communication, healing, direction, guidance, all of that. So what you're doing is when you get in harmony with divine order, purification, and so forth, then you form your body into Aru, you crystallize or, concretize that purified form. Then you have Ka or Kai. You see they show the male as well as female reproductive organs. That's the region of the sacral kara, so-called chakra and so forth, is dealing properly and harmoniously with the gender identity. We're grounded in our masculinity as Afurakani men, grounded in the femininity as Afuraitkaitnit women. There's no such place for the insanity of dissexuality and homosexuality or transgenderism. That is the idiocy and perversity of white perverse culture that has no basis in reality, and we don't engage in that perversity. So part of your capacity to invoke your spiritual, potential is to be grounded in the gender, of course, that you came into the world with. Now, that's common knowledge in our culture, but we have to mention that because there's so much misinformation put forward by this perverse culture as though there's something else outside of that that's normal, and it's not. So, but it's laid out in the text of ancient Kemet. And then the region where the root kara or chakra is the sank, which means to project or to beget or to bring into being and so forth. So you have these 7 spirits of Ra, these Ba spirits, as well as Rait. When you invoke them, you purify these 7 centers. And again, it's no different than if you were ill and so forth, you went to a naturopathic physician, they said, oh, there's some imbalance in your kidneys, take this herb to flush your kidneys and so forth, or you have inflammation in your lungs and so forth, take this anti-inflammatory to purify that, or you need some, your pituitary gland or certain other glands, you need some iodine so you can bring some balance back to your thyroid and so forth. You're purifying your glands and your organs so they can work optimally so you can function in the world harmoniously. The same thing with your spiritual anatomy. And the way that we purify and balance our spiritual anatomy, the different versions, aspects of that, is through the ritual process and invoking the abosom, the orisha, the vodou, the deities that govern these centers. Just like your body's going to work, whether you know the different organs and glands and so forth, it's going to work naturally A baby doesn't need to know the names and functions of every organ and gland for them to function properly. But when you get into a problem, an issue where you're ill, it's important to know, well, what organs, what glands do what, where's the problem, what can we do to bring some balance. The same is true with your spirit body. When you become mature, you recognize, yes, your spirit functions daily and so forth without effort, without you thinking about it consciously. But the more mature you are, the more intelligent you are. When you study your spiritual anatomy, you understand how everything works together. And the more knowledgeable you are when there are mistakes or where imbalances occur spiritually and it affects your life emotionally, mentally, economically, socially, politically, and so forth, you find out where the imbalance is spiritually in your own spiritual body, individually, your spiritual anatomy, as well as communally within our Black community. We see where the deficits are. We engage the ritual process to bring balance back to that so we can get back in harmony with divine order. And that's the basis of manifestation. Okay. Let me see. All right. So let me show you this. Show you this image right quick. And of course, if you have any questions, you can post them in the chat room. I just want to show you this. So this is the, hold on a second. All right. So you see, of course, that's Nejemet, but the BAU, Seven Spirits of Rait, dealing with manifestation, our group healing ritual, every Awusida, which is every Sunday through February 8th at 11 a.m. We have a separate private Zoom link. So this is registration. So you have to register. When you go to our site, you can register for that. We don't do it, on like YouTube because we register our courses, our, events when we have retreats and so forth. When we have courses, I have 42 online courses. I published 31 books, including the anthology, which makes 32. We have 2 documentary films. If you look on this YouTube channel, you will see the 2 documentary films you can watch for free. But our courses, our retreats, our events are open to Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people, African Black people exclusively. So we have a registration process because we verify identity. So every Sunday, 11 a.m., we had the first session just yesterday. In that first session, we went over the first Ba spirit, Wab Peret. We talked about the nature and function of Wab, purification, and Peret, the coming forward of the seed and so forth, and why that spirit is called Wab Peret, the region of the spirit body that it governs, how to activate that. Then we went through that lecture process, dealing with the cosmology and the linguistics and so forth. And then we engaged in a group healing susu or ritual. We have the video archive of that. So when you register, you can access the video archive of that. And then you can also participate in the next 6 sessions. If you miss 1 or 2 sessions and so forth, because you've registered, you only have to register 1 time. Because you've registered, then you have access to all of them, including the ones you missed. So that is starting back up next week, next Sunday. Awusida is the content for Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern. You can register for that now. Let me show you, put the link in the chat room for that. Okay. So that's the pay here page. just so you can see the interface and see what you're looking at and some of the other products that we have. So when you go on the page, you'll see a number of different products that we have up. So this is where you register. This is the very first one. When you click on the BA portion, you'll see the details, what the group healing session is about. And the way we have it set up, we don't charge an amount for group healing rituals. So it's just a donation-based, pay what you want. That's what it says up there, pay what you want. The free ebook downloads are included. So our book about Inyokumpon, Rod and Rait, the book Ankh, The Origin of the Term Yoga, Karakasa, Origin and Nature of the Chakra, the book the Okra Complex, The Soul of Akampo, talking about the nature of the soul, the divine consciousness, and its cosmology, as well as the linguistics, as well as our other books. All of those are included, so you can download those for free and so forth. So when you go register here, and we will send you this the first session that we did yesterday, and then you'll be locked in for the next 6 sessions. You will also see when you click on the Ojirasim tab, this is, once again, for those who came a little bit later, my 600-page book, Odwirafo. It's 8.5 by 11, full color, our anthology. So I took 12 of the 31 books I've published. You see them on the back, including the Ankh book, including the Okra Complex book. 12 of the books I published dealing with true historical information and cosmology and so forth. Put them all together in one large encyclopedia-sized volume. The previous books have been expanded, revised, and expanded with new information. So you can order that book directly from our website. It is on Amazon, but because Amazon takes 60% off the top for all booksellers, you'll notice that authors will have a book on Amazon, but they also have the book on their own website because we can offer it cheaper on our own website because Amazon just takes 60% off the top for all booksellers. So you go to our website, you can get the book for $44 plus shipping. And you'll see all the details about what the book, entails. You'll see here that we did a 4-part ritual series, 2 4-part ritual series. We had Achine Boa, which is animal totems, Achine Dria, which is plant totems, Achine Nipa, which is human totems, and Achine Asase, mineral totems. So we had a 4-part group healing ritual cycle where we did the presentation cosmologically about what each one is. We did the ritual invocation afterwards. We did the same thing with the elemental asceticism series, where we talked about the Ojade, which is the Akan term for the fire element, Nsude, the water element, Mframade, the air element, and Asaside, the earth element, and so forth, and the Abosom, the divinities that govern these different elemental aspects of creation. So we did a 4-week series on that a few weeks ago. Prior to that, we did a 4-week series on the Achini series, the totemic series, and so forth. So all 8 of those are available as archives now. So we started back in October for the first 4-part series, and then we did the next 4-part series, which ended a couple of weeks ago. And then we're starting this new series. So if you missed any of those, we have them all together in a bundle, 8-part ritual educational series bundle and so forth. You'll see that on the site. And then tomorrow, we have our Susu meditation instructor certification. Susu is the ancient term for meditation. It predates India about thousands of years and so forth. So we have an instructor certification. So it's a 4-week course. Once you go through the 4-week course, you become certified to conduct susu or meditation sessions in places of business, corporations, human services organizations, schools, if you want to work with youth and so forth. And most of these organizations, they pay $100 or $200 for you to conduct a 20-minute or half-hour session with their youth or with their employees to enhance work productivity, or with youth to enhance learning outcomes, or human services organization, if you have a women's shelter, a family shelter, and they need to assistance with, if they have group therapy every week and they say, we're going to bring a person in to do a 15-minute meditation session to help you get more grounded, to reduce anxiety, reduce stress, to assist with weight loss, to help overcome addictions, these various things, to be more focused and disciplined, balance your emotions, balance your hormones, all these benefits of susu meditation. But when you're certified and you have that credential, then you can go into these spaces, you can impact our community positively, but also generate income as a self-employed individual as well. So we put together that susu certification. We've been publishing and teaching on susu meditation for 21 years. We've been practicing that for 30, but the publishing and teaching is 21 years, but we started the certification process over a year ago so that people wouldn't have to go to some Eurocentric organization to get a meditation certification. This is an ancient Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit practice. It comes from our people. We prove that in the books when you go into the course. But when you have that credential, that certification, then you can go to any, corporation or organization, and you can utilize that. You can also set up your own events and conduct those sessions as well. So that starts tomorrow, 4-week course. If you can't do the live sessions, we also have the archived version, which is 50% off. You can do the archive version, and it's a self-paced study, and you go through all of the videos and all of the books and so forth. And once you go through all of them, then we set up a Zoom session to clarify everything. And once we go through that entire process, then we, submit your certification to you. So whether you want to do the archived version, self-paced study, or the live version starts tomorrow, December 30th, and it goes through January 20th, 4-week session. We have on our page, we have a $39 deposit installment option if you want to utilize that. If you don't want to pay the full fee up front, you can do $39 per month and so forth. All right. Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. All right. Okay, so we just wanted to give this introduction to what we're engaged in every week for the next few weeks up until February 8th. So if you want to join in with the group healing session and presentation and so forth for the 7 spirits of Rait and Rait, you can do that. Join in now, and we'll send you, once you register now, we will send you the archive from yesterday, and we'll move forward like that. So, Yedase, we thank you for joining us, and Yebeshi Abio, we will meet again. It's up. Chiamo, that means greetings. I just wanted to give a quick update. You'll get the details in the clip that follows. I just wanted to show everyone. So my soft cover book, Odwirafo, True Historical Anthology, is now available. It's live on Amazon, but we also have a 30% discount when you order directly through our website. As we said before, in some of the postings and information we sent out, Amazon takes 60% off the top for booksellers on their distribution site and so forth. So we can offer it at a 30% discount, on our website. So you'll get the information in the clip that follows, but 8.5 by 11 size, 600 pages, full color, and we go into detail about various aspects of Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, African ancestral religion, culture, nation building, true historical information, spirituality, cosmology, and every facet of Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, African Black identity, and so forth. So check out the clip that follows. We look forward to connecting with you, and Yerase, we thank you for your support. Odwirafo, True Historical Anthology. This is a collection of 12 books in one volume written by Odwirafo Kwesi Radnehmpata Akan. This 600-page anthology is comprised of 12 books within the 31-book corpus published by Odwirafo, which focus on trustery, cosmology, ritual, identity, and nation-building restoration for Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people, African Black people, wherever we exist in the world. Included within this anthology is the origin of the fictional characters Jesus, Allah, Yahweh, Buddha, and more. The etymology of the term God in the language of ancient Kemet, quote-unquote Egypt. Origin of the term Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnit, Africa in Kemet. Etymology and cosmology of religion and spirit in Kemet. Ankh and Kara, the origin of the terms yoga and chakra in Kemet. Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, African Black origin of civilization. Divine order in Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, African cosmology. Ritual in Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, African ancestral religion. Nature of the soul as divine consciousness in Akan cosmology. More means dead. Male-female complementary balance in ancestral religion. Ancestresses, ancestors, goddesses, gods, biology, geology. Racial exclusivity in ancestral religion. Spirigenetic inheritance. Divine prohibition against dissexuality, homosexuality in Kemet. Black nation building, restoration, rooted in ancestral religion, and more. This anthology was curated to function as a volume that will positively transform the mind of any Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, African Black individual, youth, or adult who receives it. We examine every facet of Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, African identity, empowering readers to transform their minds and thus transform their condition wherever they exist in the world. Special 30% discount for our subscribers and followers. See our website to order now. Yerase.